We're currently in a golden age of animation, with all the studios making creative works that set them apart from each other, and I could not be more pleased. But there was a period, even some of the better ones found themselves trying to copy the success of Shrek, and we were given a bunch of animated features with heavy dosages of pop culture references and unnecessary celebrity voices. This was mostly the fault of upper management rather than the artists making the films, but it led to two naders for a couple of studios, Disney's Chicken Little and DreamWorks Animation's Shark Tale. But which one of these was worse? Let's take a look. Chicken Little was being made when Disney was having a rift with Pixar, as Michael Eisner and Steve Jobs were frequently at each other's throats behind the scenes and in the press. Chicken Little was going to be their entrance into the computer animation realm after the hand-drawn animators were laid off, and show they could make successful CG films without Pixar's involvement. The original concept involved Chicken Little, written initially as a girl to be voiced by Holly Hunter, being sent to an insane asylum after declaring the sky is falling and her befriending the other inmates there. It was a cute idea with a lot of potential. However, studio executives at the time were extremely meddling, and Chicken Little was rewritten as a boy, voiced by Zach Braff, and dealing with a town tired of his declarations about the sky. And then aliens invade. Shark Tale was DreamWorks' first computer-animated film following the two Shrek movies, and a lot of focus and marketing was on the ensemble of famous voices they had gotten, with even more pop cultural references and a soundtrack full of hit songs that rivaled even Shrek. Both Shark Tale and Chicken Little, I feel, are the weakest films in the respective studios' lineups. While Chicken Little obviously takes a tiny bit of inspiration from the namesake's fable to set up its plot and cast of animal characters, Shark Tale was a spin on The Boy Who Cried Wolf, with its lying protagonist fibbing about defeating a shark until the real predators show up. One of the biggest problems with both of these films is a streak of nastiness. Admittedly, Chicken Little is a far more sympathetic character than Oscar the Fish. The town's hatred for him is unwarranted, and he tries his best to do the best he can. However, unlike something like Peanuts, in which bad luck allows us to relate to Charlie Brown, the townsfolk are so cruel to Chicken Little that it distracts from the main character's dilemma. And when the aliens attack the end, and he has to save the town, there's little personal investment, especially when we find out the alien's true motivation at the end. Oscar is not the least bit likable in Shark Tale, which is surprising considering the character and his appearance are based on Will Smith. Yet none of Smith's charm comes through in him. That's oddly true of everyone. Almost every single character in Shark Tale is merely the actor playing themselves in front of the microphone. The odd decision to have them look like the famous people voicing them doesn't help matters, as not once do I see a single fleshed out personality. Merely hiring Martin Scorsese to voice a blowfish and slapping some thick eyebrows on him does not a three-dimensional character make. The one actor who doesn't merely play a variation of himself is Jack Black as the vegetarian shark Lenny. He changes his voice and effectively plays this shark dealing with not living up to his family legacy and his father's approval. It's the only sincere aspect of Shark Tale, and Lenny should have been the main focus of the film, not Oscar. Having Scorsese and Robert De Niro voice fish lookalikes also results in a lot of tired, obvious, and not funny references to Goodfellas with a little taxi driver thrown in for good measure. Chicken Little isn't quite so obnoxious with the celebrity voices, and some actually quite well chosen, including Joan Cusack as Abby Mallard and Don Knotts as Mayor Turkey Lurkey. Disney has always been good about fitting characters with a proper voice, and Chicken Little at least continues that tradition. It's just a shame that the characters are simply drawn and not all that interesting. When the most endearing one is by far the fish out of water, there's a problem. The jokes in Chicken Little are absolutely stale, going for easy pop culture gags. The moment that will always make me shake my head is a sequence with a Spice Girls karaoke game. I'm not going to pretend that modern references were never a thing in Disney animated films, but when the genie did a Rodney Dangerfield impression in Aladdin, that made sense and fit the character. In Chicken Little, they're just pointless and feel very pandering. The final act, when it becomes one big War of the Worlds spoof, is the point where I really started to lose patience with Chicken Little, as it was not taking full advantage of its plot. With that said, the jokes in Chicken Little were mild compared to the onslaught of puns and mob movie references in Shark Tale. Around almost every corner there's a Sopranos joke or a Godfather gag. We get it, they're gangster sharks. It's a credit to how well written Zootopia is that they were able to do a whole sequence spoofing The Godfather and make it funny. I didn't even think that was possible anymore, especially after viewing Shark Tale. That Will Smith shouts and screams almost every line does not help matters. Visually, neither film is impressive and shows the limitations of computer animation at the time. Chicken Little is watchable enough, but you'd think the studio responsible for the groundbreaking animation of The Lion King and Tarzan would craft something that did not look so ordinary. Thankfully, since Bolt, the computer animation in Disney's films have been nothing short of outstanding. Shark Tale is an eyesore to look at, but I blame that more on the character designs than the animation. This was not the first animated film to model the designs on the voice actors, but even though the genie looks like Robin Williams, I can still watch Aladdin and see the genie and not Williams ad-libbing in the recording booth. I actually had to look up the character names before recording this video, because I cannot tell you what the Will Smith fish or the Angelina Jolie fish were called without looking up the credits. In addition to having no personality, these hybrid aquatic animals are horrifying to look at. Only Lenny and his father come out unscathed, since they are made to actually look like sharks and not caricatures. So in the end, which is worse? They both have stories with little heart, unlikable and forgettable characters, hardly breathtaking animation, and an annoying array of pop culture references. Personally, I have to go with Shark Tale. That entire film just felt like DreamWorks had a bunch of famous people knocking on its door to provide voices for an animated film after hearing of Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy's Shrek paychecks. The result is something with a bare-bones plot and more attention to creating the environments and making sure the fish look like their famous voices. It doesn't even seem to know what audience it's aiming for. There's nothing wrong with a family film having adult themes, but so much of Shark Tale is about making references to gangster pictures, and what parent is allowing their child to watch Goodfellas? Chicken Little's pop culture references, as obnoxious and funny as they are, at least have some universality to them. Its lead is a little sympathetic, despite the ugly behavior of the townsfolk and even his own father. There are a couple of funny little physical gags peppered throughout. I laughed more at the fish in Chicken Little than any of the ones in Shark Tale. I'm just glad we're seeing much less of these types of animated films from the majors. On a final note, I find it sad that Chicken Little is still the last film Mark Dindal directed. He brought us The Emperor's New Groove and Cats Don't Dance, but was saddled with a lot of executive meddling on Chicken Little. He was attached to the stuck-in-development hell DreamWorks film Me and My Shadow, but has since departed that project. Please, Hollywood, Mark Dindal should not be stuck in director's jail because of this film. Now it's your turn. Tell me, which of these films do you think is worse? Chicken Little or Shark Tale? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.